Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Hollyoaks Steve is set to encounter a tragic twist as he continues to search for answers on the death of his husband James. Before the soap jumped forward in time, Steve and his husband James were involved in a dramatic car bomb explosion at the hands of Blue. Best Streaming Services 2024. Including Disney+, Netflix, iPlayer, and Apple TV+. James tragically lost his life in the explosion, while Steve managed to survive but was in a coma for a year. Now as he continues his recovery, Steve is looking for answers about James' death. Earlier this week, he was discharged from the hospital into Leila's care. But he suffered a shock when he found out he couldn't go home to the flat he once shared with James as it had been sold. Steve didn't take the news well and ended up barging into his old home to confront the new owners, suggesting they were hiding James. Hollyoaks airs shocking proposal scenes in early streaming release. When he found a coat and briefcase in the house, Steve decided that James was still alive. In upcoming scenes, Steve is trawling online for clues about James' death and tells Leila that he believes he is still alive. Leila insists that Steve's mind is playing tricks on him and that he should instead be focusing on Lucas, who needs him to step up for him. Later, Joel assures the family that they have Steve back on track after his wild ideas that James is alive. But at the garage, Rex is packing up tools and a balaclava, not knowing that Steve is spying on him as he continues his search for clues about James. Meanwhile, Grace has busted Rex doing dodgy deals in the garage. He argues that the money makes it worth it, but she's worried that if Robbie gets wind of it, he will go to social services about Lexi. Grace confronts Robbie, who is losing faith in Rex. Hollyoaks had seen its fair share of dramatic events, but the conspiracy surrounding James Nightingale's death shook the village to its core. At first, it had seemed like a tragic accident, a car crash on a stormy night that had claimed the life of one of Hollyoaks' most complex characters. But as Sestihei delved deeper, haunted by grief and a nagging suspicion, he began to unravel a web of lies far darker than anyone could have imagined. The funeral and the aftermath. The mood in the village was somber as friends and family gathered to say their final goodbyes to James. His sudden death had left a gaping hole in the community, and for Steve, it felt like a part of his own soul had been ripped away. He had loved James fiercely, even when their relationship was fraught with tension and chaos. Despite their ups and downs, James had always been there for him, a steady, if sometimes maddening, presence in his life. Now that was gone, and the only thing left was a hollow ache in his chest. But there was something else too, a small voice in the back of his mind that wouldn't be silenced. Something about James's death didn't sit right with Steve. The night of the accident played over and over in his head like a bad movie. James had been driving alone, or so they said. His car had swerved off the road and into a ravine, the storm making visibility impossible, no witnesses, no real answers. It was all too convenient. At the wake, Steve stood in the corner, nursing a drink and watching as the village tried to put on brave faces. Juliet, James's half-sister, was a wreck, clinging to her girlfriend Perry, as though she might crumble at any moment. Marnie, James's mother, had retreated into a cold, distant version of herself, barely acknowledging anyone as she sipped her wine and stared into the distance. It was almost too much to bear, but Steve couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone was mourning. Someone in that room knew more than they were letting on. The first clue. Days after the funeral, Steve found himself wandering through James' office, looking for something, anything, that might offer him some closure. The law firm had been shut down temporarily, but Steve still had a key. As he rummaged through the drawers, he came across a file. It wasn't labeled, and at first glance, it didn't seem particularly interesting. But when he opened it, his heart nearly stopped. It was full of letters, angry, threatening letters. They weren't addressed to James, but they mentioned him repeatedly. Whoever had written them had a vendetta, and it seemed they had been watching him for weeks before his death. The threats were vague, but chilling. "You'll pay for what you've done," one of them read. Another simply said, "Your time is up." Steve's hands trembled as he flipped through the papers. This wasn't some random accident. James had been targeted. But by who? And determined to get to the bottom of it, Steve began to ask questions around the village. At first, people brushed him off. They didn't want to believe there was anything more sinister at play. But Steve couldn't let it go. He needed to know the truth, for James's sake and for his own peace of mind. He reached out to Maxine, who had seen James the night before the accident. He was jumpy, she admitted. I don't know why, but something was definitely bothering him. He kept checking his phone, like he was waiting for a message or something. It was a small lead, but it was enough to keep Steve going. He began tracing James's steps in the days leading up to the crash, talking to anyone who had interacted with him. What he uncovered painted a very different picture from the one the police had presented. James had been in deep trouble. He had been involved in some shady dealings, something to do with one of his old cases, perhaps. Steve learned that a mysterious figure had been threatening him, someone who had a grudge against James for reasons unknown. But the more Steve dug, the more dangerous the situation became. The shocking twist. One evening, as Steve sat in the dog, piecing together the puzzle, he was approached by a man he didn't recognize. The stranger slid into the booth across from him, his expression unreadable. "You need to stop asking questions," the man said in a low voice. "It's for your own good." Steve's heart raced. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What do you know about James's death?" The man leaned in closer. "More than you do. But trust me, if you keep poking around, you're going to end up just like him." Before Steve could respond, the man got up and left, leaving Steve shaken. This wasn't just about revenge or money. This was a full-blown conspiracy, and it seemed like James had been caught in the middle of something much bigger than anyone realized. A deadly discovery. As Steve continued his investigation, he found himself in increasingly dangerous situations. There were late-night phone calls, strange cars following him, and even a break-in at his flat. But he wouldn't stop, not until he uncovered the truth. Finally, Steve's persistence paid off. He discovered that James had been blackmailing a powerful figure in the village. Someone with enough influence to cover up a murder. The crash hadn't been an accident. James had been silenced because he knew too much. In a shocking twist, Steve realized that the person behind it all was closer than he'd ever imagined. It was someone he had trusted, someone who had been playing both sides all along. The revelation hit him like a punch to the gut. As the truth came out, the village was rocked by the scandal. But for Steve, the knowledge was bittersweet. He had uncovered the conspiracy, but it came at a cost. James was gone, and nothing would bring him back. All Steve could do was try to pick up the pieces and move forward, knowing that the love of his life had died a hero, fighting to expose the truth. In the end, justice was served, but it left Steve with more questions than answers. And as he stood at James's graveside, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something even darker. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe our Hollyoaks Update YouTube channel for more update news.